Ladies and gentlemen, have you played competitive recently? Have you seen anything like this? Report ORISA, please. This has been in every single game I have played since ORISA's launch on competitive last night. Every game where I've had an ORISA on my team, there has been some sort of abuse aimed at the ORISA player because you're playing ORISA and you have thrown the game. God damn you, ORISA, you are the worst ever. Now, we've got to look at why this is the reason. And actually, I could have started this video off with a load of clips of people getting rather animated, let's say, ladies and gentlemen, towards the ORISA player. And it's not really fair, but it's kind of justified because do you really want somebody who's never played a certain hero before just picking them in a competitive game for the first time? Well, there's a massive problem here, and it's Blizzard's fault. Blizzard are not actually giving these players the chance to test these heroes out in live environments, and I don't think they ever will because there's a massive issue with this. So if we look at Orisa, right, I think Orisa's launch has been probably the best hero launch in the game to date. So Anna's was a bit quick, she just suddenly was there. Sombra's was way too long, all the Sombra ARG stuff, and Orisa's has kind of been like in between the both of them. So we had a bit of a tease, and then suddenly she's available, and then we get to play, and it's all good, it's all fine, and it's great. Problem is, we get her on PTR first, so we get to test her. We get to see how she plays. We get to look at her abilities. But that's the problem. We don't get to see how she plays because nobody plays properly on PTR. And Jeff has even said this. So Jeff Kaplan, the game's director, obviously, you guys know who Daddy Jeff is. Like, he has said the PTR is a crap environment for testing, and it is, right? The only thing the PTR is there for currently is to make sure things work in the game isn't broke, so it actually, works when you select the hero and all of that stuff. That's what the PTR is primarily used for. That's why balance changes on the PTR, yes, they can be kind of major, but it's very hard to test them, and that's why a lot of the crazy changes, i.e. the Bastion change, hit the live servers, because they've got no way of collecting viable data. This is the problem, right? Anyway, let's go back to Orisa's launch. So she's on PTR, that's great. People test her on PTR. PTR's a bit of a shit show. We don't know what's going on. You get to test her new abilities, etc., etc. They had competitive in PTR for a while. Problem is, though, you join competitive. If you didn't insta-lock the Orisa, then you'd leave the game, right? Let's be honest, you'd leave the game. So you'd have... Often competitive games would end up being like a 4v6, and you can't test, and it's terrible. And it's bad. Anyway, Orisa is then available last week on the live servers in quick play. Blizzard are like, oh yeah, we'll give you a chance to test Orisa, to get used to Orisa, and to practice with Orisa before we put her in competitive, because we're not going to put her in competitive straight away. Only nobody plays Orisa in quick play. Okay, people will play Orisa in quick play. I was actually quite surprised at the lack of Orisa in quick play. It's not that I play a load and load of quick play, but maybe I played 10 or 15 games and seen Orisa in maybe 6 of those games. I expected to see it in every game on both teams, much like it was on the PTR, but that wasn't the case, so that was pretty interesting to me. My argument is, why even wait a week for PTR to put her onto competitive, to enable her in competitive? Because right now, we've got the same issue we would have had a week ago if we just put Orisa onto live. That is, people who do not play, like a lot of people who play competitive, very rarely play quick play. They might play it every now and again to warm up, but they often just play a lot of quick play. So this means the competitive players get very heated, hot under the collar. They get tilted, ladies and gentlemen, when they see an Orisa, because Orisa hasn't been played at all. I mean, there was a guy I had, it was on Route 66, and I said to him, like, I was asking the people who've been playing Orisa, what do you think of Orisa? Because I like to see what people think, right? And this guy's like, oh, she's not too bad, only I've not played it that much. So I looked at his profile, he had 2 minutes of playtime in Orisa, and I'm like, 2 minutes? I said, have you played her on the PTR? And he was like, no, I don't play on the PTR. And I'm thinking, right, so this guy clearly, like, and this is like mid-master tier, this guy is just going to play Orisa because she's new. And that's fine. Don't get me wrong, that's fine. You should be able to play this stuff because it's new. But you can't help but feel, okay, this is not optimal, right? This guy, maybe he's a Reinhardt player or something, and now he's just going to play Orisa. The only saving grace with Orisa is she's quite simple to play to a fairly effective level. It's quite clear what Orisa is there to be used for, right? Putting a shield in the choke, putting a shield on the payload as it moves. If you do that, well, you're probably going to be alright as Orisa. So, unlike Sombra, who was... Well, let's be honest, we still don't know how to use Sombra. Sombra is very difficult to use and very difficult to play. Probably one of the most difficult heroes in the game, up there with like a Genji or maybe a Tracer or something like that. But it's very obvious with Orisa, so it isn't that bad. But we need to go back, right? We need to go right back to the start of this video. It's not the player's fault. It isn't your fault for picking Orisa and playing her in competitive for the first time. It isn't your teammates' fault for getting angry at you for playing Orisa. Is it Blizzard's fault? Well, It's an impossible situation, because how do you set up an environment that is the same as live, where people have got their SR on the level, on the line even, right? They could lose SR, which is the only thing people care about, let's be honest, in competitive, right? Obviously, rank doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen. We all know that. But how do you set up that environment? What do you do? Do you say, okay, any games that you play on PTR, on competitive, reflect your live competitive? Well, you can't say that, because it's not fair. Because on PTR, there's not enough players in your skill bracket. So I got placed into Master, High Master, then I got into GM on PTR, but I was in games with Platinum players. That's not fair. Well, like, what's going on? That's because there's not enough players. So what do they do? This is a massive problem. The only thing Blizzard can do to test Orisa is to do exactly what they've done, although I don't agree with the waiting for a week, because the people who are going to play are in competitive, I don't think they care about playing in quick play anyway. You should just enable it all at the same time. That's one thing I'd like to see in the future. But the only time Blizzard can collect viable, good data is from competitive, and that is right now. But it's causing a shed load of toxicity, and every time there's a problem, every time something goes wrong, it's Orisa's fault. And the person playing Orisa, I feel sorry for them, because they've got to learn somewhere, and the best place to learn is in competitive with, you would imagine, proper team compositions and stuff like that. But it's just nigh on impossible. Like, I want to play Orisa, but I'm frightened, ladies and gentlemen, because if I start playing her, it's going to be like, oh my god, can you get off the Orisa? As soon as anything goes wrong, it's going to be, oh, I don't know, it's Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Have you had an Orisa on your team that has maybe caused a defeat? Are you not happy that Orisa is just suddenly available in comp? Do you have any ideas as to how Blizzard could fix this? Like, the only viable thing I can see, and I just died to mercy, is if you know, they edit the SR, or they link SR from PTR and live, but that's got a major problem, like I just said, where you can't do that because it's not fair on the PTR. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Stylosa, and this is Unit Lost. And if you've got an Orisa on your team, just be chill. It's fine. I'm sure she'll do okay. Alright guys, I'll catch you on the next one, and you can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and yeah, I'll catch you next time, guys. Toodaloo. And don't hate on Orisa. She's nice.